On today's Smart 7, the King gets heckled down under, Keir Starmer hopes to reboot the NHS, and much more. It's Tuesday 22nd of October, it's Wombat Day, and happy birthday Jeff Goldblum.
The Smart 7. It's news, but
not the news.
It seems the government has learnt nothing from Boaty McBoatface, or even James Blunt's recent offering to let the public have their say on his name. They've opened a public consultation on the NHS and are posting the suggestions live online, which so far have included things like opening a Wetherspoons in every hospital and setting up a tipping system for medical staff. Next thing we know, we'll be dealing with Health Secretary Wessie McStreetface. But on a more serious note, Prime Minister Keir Starmer says it's time for the nation to focus on the broken NHS and to get it back to health.
We want to make sure that the NHS isn't just working a little bit better than it is now. We all want that. We want an NHS which is reimagined, made fit for the future.
Starmer was keen to emphasise his NHS credentials through his mother, sister and wife, but Matthew Taylor, the chief executive of the NHS Confederation, says the issues with the NHS run pretty deep.
Really, the model of care in the NHS is not fit for the demands that we face. We still in the NHS have a model which is predominantly based on the idea of people who are well, but they've got something wrong with a bit of their body. But in fact, 70% of demand in the health service now comes from people who've got long-term, often multiple conditions.
King Charles has been busy on a tour of Australia, but the welcome hasn't been entirely warm.
You committed genocide against our people. Give us what you stole from us. Our bones, our skulls, our babies.
That was Indigenous Australian Senator Lydia Thorpe making her feelings known on the British Empire and the King. She did at least wait until he'd finished his speech before making her voice heard, all while dressed in a possum overcoat. She spoke to Sky News and said she had an important point to make about the plight of the Aboriginal people.
I did it for truth-telling about the royals who caused so much devastation to not only our people, but Indigenous people around the world.
The gloriously named David Littleproud, leader of Australia's centre-right National Party, wasn't particularly impressed.
This is what Senator Thorpe does. And sadly, it's become embarrassing for her. At times, it's just about trying to grab attention for herself.
They say every vote counts, and it certainly did so in Moldova over the weekend, as the country voted on whether or not to proceed with its EU membership application. The vote, promoted by pro-Western Moldovan President Maia Sandu, eventually passed, but by only 13,000 votes out of over 1.5 million. President Sandu also saw her own re-election campaign pass the first stage as she topped the poll with 42% of the vote, and she now faces a runoff election in 2 weeks. Moldova, which is perched between Romania and Ukraine, has been battling Russian influence as it attempts to chart a course towards the European Union. Voting in the referendum had been plagued by interference, misinformation and disinformation from pro-Moscow forces, while rumours also circulated about a vote-buying scheme.
Criminal groups, working with foreign forces, have attacked our country with lies and propaganda, using the most disgraceful means to keep our citizens and our nation trapped in uncertainty and instability.
It's now officially just 2 weeks to go until the US presidential election on November 5th, and the polls remain almost deadlocked. Kamala Harris has seen some positive momentum at state level, and there's some indication that she's winning the arguments on the campaign trail, but she still has a mountain to climb to beat former President Trump. His campaign style has been increasingly erratic. He spent Sunday at a closed McDonald's pretending to make food for campaign operatives, and the shots of him in the trademark apron went viral. But on Monday, he'd switched direction and was lecturing people on the importance of health food, apparently because former candidate and now supporter Robert Kennedy was keen on the idea.
Bobby Kennedy, right? Everybody likes Bobby Kennedy. And he's so big into the health food and women, things, everything. He wants to do things in the environment. I mean, he says other countries that don't do anything are healthier than us, okay? We're not that healthy.
Still to come on today's Smart 7, managerless Forest grab a win and Uma Thurman is getting nostalgic right after this. Welcome back. This week is another busy one with Champions League and Europa League action. Monday night, Nottingham Forest hosted Crystal Palace in the Premier League. Palace have had a rocky start to the season with no wins and just 4 points to their name, while Forest were 9th in the table going into Monday night's game. Forest manager Nuno Espirito Santo was banned from the dugout, but his team managed to get the win regardless. Striker Chris Wood, who got the game's only goal in the 65th minute, says his team stayed focused and they've now moved up to 8th in the table.
Look, you're just thinking keep going. There's always going to be another one. And that's where you just got to keep going. I mean, I was unlucky in the first half. A couple that could have bounced a different way or a header that went in. But it's one of those as a striker, you just got to keep going because there's hopefully another chance around the corner and you just got to be ready for it.
We haven't seen a whole lot of Uma Thurman recently, but she's back in a new movie called Oh Canada. It's directed by Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver for Martin Scorsese and also directed movies like American Gigolo and First Reformed, which got him an Oscar nomination. Uma's been chatting about working with legends and reminiscing about working with Quentin Tarantino, a relationship that turned rocky after a car crash on the set of Kill Bill. This year is the 30th anniversary of Pulp Fiction and the 20-year anniversary of Kill Bill Volume 2, and Uma says she still has some memorabilia.
I have my costumes. I have my sword and I have my costume. It was a Bruce Lee onesie. Okay. I had just had a baby.
Eat it all.
I remember my mother telling me, like, only about 10 pounds of that is the baby. The rest is still going to be with you. Enjoy your Sunday.
The Goosebumps book series has been a nice little earner for its author R.L. Stein. He's sold over 400 million copies and written over 60 books in the series, which are best described as spooky horror stories for teens. They've also been turned into TV shows, movies, and recently been reinvented for Disney+. The second series of the new format is on the way. The first series featured Justin Long, but former friend David Schwimmer is taking the lead for Series 2, which is a completely new story. The new season drops in early January on Disney+.
Things have been happening that are not normal. Trey's missing.
Kid's missing. Sound familiar?
God's behind all the crazy stuff happening. You don't know for sure that he is. You don't have a kid in your basement, do you?
No, that would be... No.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.